This podcast is brought to you by Most Valuable Podcasts, leading the league in podcasting entertainment.
What's up, real MVPs, Ricky Widmer here, along with the Mark Weber.
Dub them ease.
And we are here for another edition of the Onside Kick, right here on Most Valuable Podcast, your one-stop shop for not just NFL, but also a sprinkling of AAF news. Also, we talk about everything in the pro football
We really
world.
only talked about it once.
Twice. We talked about it once when you weren't here. We talked about Colin Kaepernick and Tim Tebow. There have been people in the
Two
comments.
guys who aren't actually in the league.
No, well, should they be is what we talked about. But there have been comments about how they want us to do weekly picks. And the only reason why I haven't done that yet is I want to give it a year. I want to give it a year. I want to get used to it. And then next year we might make weekly picks.
We're not going to. Don't get your hopes up. It's not going to happen.
I said might.
It's not going to.
There's a possibility.
It's not.
1 in a million.
not.
There's always a chance.
Nope.
But we got a jam-packed show for you guys today. Going to be talking about the Antonio Brown trade. He is going to the Buffalo. Oh, wait, no, he's not. He's going to the Oakland Raiders. We're going to talk about what his
That's a
trade
different Brown going to the Bills.
Josh Brown or John Brown? I think it's John Brown going to the Raiders today or to the Bills in free agency today. We're going to talk about Antonio Brown getting traded to the Raiders from the Steelers, what it means for both teams. We're also going to take a look at Nick Foles, how the Nick Foles era is going to look with the Jacksonville Jaguars, and then round things out with the Cleveland Browns. They made some moves via trade and free agency. Are they now the favorite in the AFC North? We're going to answer that question today. Before we get into everything, make sure to check us out on Patreon, patreon.com/Most Valuable Podcast. That's where you can support us. And at the $10 tier, if you join us, you can be on a podcast each and every month. You're at that tier talking about the topics you want to talk about on any of our MVP podcasts. But Mark, let's start. Antonio Brown gets traded from the Steelers to the Raiders for a third and a fifth. Mm-hmm. Before we get into what it means for the Raiders, what it means for the Steelers, let's just get into that first. Antonio Brown, who, yes, I know he brings a ton of diva baggage with him, but you would think he was going to get traded for more than a third and a fifth,
Well, they said
right?
they wanted 2 first-round picks initially.
And they got no first-round picks.
And they traded it to Oakland, the team that's got more picks than anybody.
Yeah, and Oakland's now going to turn Antonio Brown into first-round picks.
And
that's a joke, people.
That would be great. Trade him into anybody. Who wants
another first-round pick.
We want more. We want more.
This year, next year, doesn't matter. First-round pick.
I think the Steelers are really trying to test it. They're like, well, trading your picks to the Raiders turns you into a playoff team. Mm-hmm. Does it turn you into a playoff team if you trade a player to the Raiders? Let's find out.
Yeah.
They're really curious. They figure they're in the AFC, so they got to flip things around. Mm-hmm. I mean, it is a little bit shocking that you only get a third and a fifth, but in a sense, I think that shows you how done with Antonio Brown the Steelers were. To just be like, we do not care. We'll just give him to you. You can just have him. Mm-hmm. We do not want this guy on our team anymore. And the Raiders then had to give him more guaranteed money as well. So they had to kind of readjust that contract. Mm-hmm. It's purely just a get this guy off our team. I was waiting for Big Ben to say, I don't understand how this helps our team now. But not this time. Mm-hmm. Not this time. He is okay with Antonio Brown leaving. But yeah, to me, it's very obvious the Steelers were willing to do whatever it took to get this guy off their team. And then I look at the Raiders and the things that they're doing, and it's like they're kind of making some smarter moves this time compared to what they did last year. Mm-hmm. With all those signings of old players John Gruden wanted. But I still sit there and I say, I personally feel you're overpaying for a lineman that you got, and then switching your first-round draft pick that everybody thought was a bad pick over to the other side of the line. And then you're overpaying for a guy who's known to be a locker room cancer. I still sit there, and maybe I just got the hater goggles on, so Raiders fans, I apologize for that if that's what it is. But I sit there and I look at it, and I'm like, yes, this can be productive on offense, but man, is it risky. And it's kind of trying to just cover up some mistakes that the team might have made.
Well, it's risk. I'll say this. It's risky, but the first thing is I think that the actual trade has more to do with the ineptness of the Steelers and their handling of this than it does for the Raiders. Like, I'm looking at an article headline right now on ESPN where they're like, how Raiders GM Mike Mayock fleeced the Pittsburgh Steelers. And it's like, did he really fleece them, or did the Steelers fleece themselves?
I don't think anybody got fleeced. I think they just
this?
wanted to get rid of him.
See, I'm on the other side. Like, yes, they wanted to get rid of him, but they played this situation, they being the Steelers, played this situation so poorly that the first-round picks that they wanted, they were never going to get, because teams were always going to be like, well, yeah, you want to get rid of him so badly. You have driven down his price so low.
I think he did it to himself.
Well, he also had all the Instagram stories and everything drove down that price to where the Steelers were sitting there like, great, this is the best we're going to get.
That's why I don't blame the Steelers for that. He said, fuck you guys. I'm going to do whatever I want. I don't care if it drives down your price. I'm going to get paid. I'm getting paid no matter what.
And see, that's the thing. Like, what I would sit at, and if I was a Raider fan, I would kind of be a little iffy with it. Several different reasons. But number one, I don't know if I'd want Antonio Brown on my team. And people are going to say, Ricky, you're stupid for that. He's one of the best wide receivers in the game today. I don't want a diva on my team. I don't want a personality. There's a reason why Odell Beckham Jr., why people ask, should we give up a first-round pick for him? Because of all the baggage that comes with
the reason why Chad Ochocinco, who was a really good wide receiver, nobody wanted him.
No one wanted no one wanted the sideshow that came with Chad Ochocinco. And with the Raiders, I wonder if this is just something where, it's the black hole, and Raider fans are, and I'm saying this nicely, Raider fans, you guys are crazy at your games and scare me half the time. That it kind of, his personality might feed into that, but also the Raiders might sit there and go, hey, we're on a timeline where we're probably on the lose now timeline. If he helps us a little bit, well, it doesn't matter, because if we make him happy, he is on the team, brings people to our games. Yeah. We still get high draft picks. We can still do this, lose for the future, but have someone to bring fans to the games. I wonder if this kind of project is going to work out for the Raiders in the end. Because weren't they a team that, hey, we're going to try to lose now, amass draft picks, and then win later?
Well, I mean, they traded away their, arguably two of their better players. They traded away their best player for sure with Khalil Mack for a first-round pick, and also more things than that. But anyways, yeah, they definitely were a team that was in the rebuild. It's where people were even saying, I don't know, they might get rid of Derek Carr too. But I sit there and I'm like, okay, this can work because we've seen Derek Carr go out there and sling it. We've seen him put up points upon points upon points in a game, and that's when they were successful. And then when teams kind of caught up to them, that's when they fell apart. The problem that I have with the Oakland Raiders, and why I think that this is not necessarily a great scenario here, is they're trying to give themselves that offense again. And there are people who are wondering if Antonio Brown even fits because they're just very West Coast. They want the ball out of Derek Carr's hands pretty fast. That doesn't matter. You can make anything happen if Antonio Brown. He's that talented. But people are just scared. Are they going to sling it still? But the problem for the Oakland Raiders is they don't have a defense. But they do have 3 first-round picks.
And that's what I was
So they could just say, cornerback, defensive ends, and maybe defensive tackle or linebacker. Like, you can just go hard at the defense side of the ball, because it doesn't matter if you have a great offense, it's not going to keep up all the time, to where that's going to be the downfall. So they really, really need, one, to get more out of Carr, which he did have a better statistical year last year, some improvement there. But they really need to get that defense. If they can get that defense right, which hopefully they did, they signed a GM that was supposed to be a draft guru in Mayock. And I love that he first, he comes in and he's like, hey, that draft pick last year, Colton Miller, that was a bad idea. We're going to shift that guy to the other side of the line and get somebody better.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I mean, they have potential here. I like what I'm seeing, but I'm also concerned about what I'm seeing.
Yeah, and my point that I was kind of thinking about is what you hit on, is they have 3 first-round picks, and in every single mock, except for the last one we did, I had the Raiders going with the wide receiver. I probably would have had them go with one in our last one if I want to say it was the Colts didn't take A.J. Brown 1 slot above the Raiders' last pick. But now what they can do is they can virtually target either with the 4th overall pick, they could target virtually a Greedy Williams or like a Clelin Ferrell or a Rashawn Gray.
Yeah.
And kind of have that Gary, I always screw that up. You guys know what I mean, from Michigan. They can go with that early on. Hell, even maybe a Montez Sweat. If he, depend on how high he rises, A, post-combine, B, post-interviews, C, as we get closer to the draft. And then with their last 2 picks, they can take, with me, I'd go all 3 levels. Go defensive line, probably a pass rusher, because you trade Khalil Mack, and the first thing out of John Gruden's mouth is, well, if we had a pass rusher, plus you guys were one of the worst defenses at getting pressure on other offenses, so you should probably get a pass rusher with that 4th overall pick. Then go linebacker and cornerback with the 24th and 27th selections in the draft and solidify that defense early on. Like this, to me, the biggest thing this means for the Raiders is that they're not going to take a wide receiver in the 1st round for me, for sure.
Probably not, but they still really need one.
Do you think so?
Yeah. I do, because Antonio Brown's going to need help.
1st round level.
No, but they still really need one.
I mean, they could take one.
I mean, you've got 3 first-round picks, so 2nd round, you're at your 4th need, potentially.
Which maybe be wide receiver.
Should be a wide receiver, probably, because, I mean, you still got Jordy Nelson.
Yeah, they would have the 35th overall pick would be their next one.
Jared Cook might not come back. There's going to need some help, especially because, like I said, Brown's not typically, he's not necessarily a middle of the field or a slants kind of wide receiver. I still think he can do it and he can be fine, but you'd really love to have somebody else take care of that and let Antonio Brown be Antonio Brown. That would be very useful for you because, you don't want to get a guy who's this talented and then put him in the situation to do the things he's not as good at. Then you're just wasting money and you just sign somebody to sign him.
Do you think the Raiders are going to win more games next year?
Oh, I sure hope so. I mean, seriously, you look at the Raiders team last year.
I give you that look because I'm not confident in this Raider team, and B, I don't know if Antonio Brown, like the one thing I was thinking about today, is if Raider fans are now, because of this trade, thinking, oh man,
playoffs.
We're going to be a lot better team. Look at the Bears. Look at what they did. Let's pump the brakes a little bit. The Bears got a pass rusher, which impacts the game a lot more than a wide receiver.
And already had a top 5 defense.
Exactly.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's a completely different scenario there. There's still some ways to go here, especially with whatever happens draft day. I mean, honestly, Raiders might surprise everybody, and John Gruden says, no, I really do like Kyler Murray. I'm drafting him. Not that it's his choice, but he might have that kind of say over Mayock.
Mike Mayock might like him too.
Yeah, exactly. So who knows what could happen really with that. But the Raiders are certainly going to be better. But I can see it going one of 2 ways. And this is just because of who Antonio Brown is now, who he's shown us to be. He's either a guy who goes out, this team starts winning games right off the bat, and he does well, or He's not as productive as he was in Pittsburgh, a offense that had a lot of other things going on. They had 3 other good wide receivers. They had one of the best running backs in the NFL who then didn't play and then had a guy who was about 90% of what that other guy was. And they had Big Ben.
Yeah.
So they got a lot going on there. Now he goes on to a not quite so talented team for the Raiders. If they don't win those games off the bat, I really can see Antonio Brown really regretting taking that money and then becomes the same locker room cancer he was last year for the Steelers.
First thing, before I get on into the point I was going to make, the thing I did here, and I want to say this was Ryan Clark on ESPN that said this, is he said Antonio Brown's the type of guy where he'd be happier with 12 catches in a loss than 2 catches in a win. Like, that is the kind of guy the Raiders got in Antonio Brown. That's another reason why I wouldn't want him on my team. He just doesn't seem like a team guy. He seems like a me guy.
I think at the same time, though, if you're not winning, he's the same guy who's going to think the rest of my team's not good enough.
Exactly.
And
nothing's going to be his fault.
Nothing's going to be his fault. So, yes, he's going to be happier with more catches.
The diva wide receiver.
But he's also going to be mad at everybody else for losing. So it's a no, unless you're winning and he's getting catches, it's kind of a no-win scenario here.
And the thing is, and I look at this, and here's the reason why I don't think this move moves the needle much for the Raiders, is so last year, the close games that they had, first the wins. Cleveland was a win in overtime. Should have been a loss. I'm still going to say that. But yes, they got the win. Close win. Their other wins, Arizona, who was the worst team in football record-wise, the Pittsburgh Steelers, and the Denver Broncos. Every single one of those games was, 3 of them were like a 3 or 2 point game. The Bronco win was a 27-14 later in the year. The Bronco win or loss earlier in the year, 20-19. They almost did sweep the Broncos last year. You look at this year. Here's the opponents that the Raiders are going to play this year, home and away. Home, you've got your division, Chiefs, Chargers, Broncos. All of them, I would say, has gotten the Chargers I'm confident in. The Chiefs get better, especially adding Tyrann Mathieu today, as we're recording this on Tuesday. And then Denver gets better. They hopefully have their quarterback, they think, in Joe Flacco for this year. The other home games that they're going to play, Khalil Mack comes to town right there. The Chicago Khalil Macks are coming to town. Detroit, Jacksonville, Cincinnati. 2 for 2 there. Well, with Tennessee.
And coming to town is actually London.
Yes, for the Bears.
Yeah.
So you get the Bears and Jacksonville, I'll probably say, are the tough ones. The Titans and Cincinnati Bengals, I'm doing the kind of because I don't know how they're going to be. Detroit could be a win because Detroit, yes, they're making expatriate additions, but I don't know what I'm going to get from the Patriots. You look at the road games, and it's like every game except for one, you get the division, which you went, one win last year, so 1-5 last year in. You get Minnesota, who's going to be tough at Minnesota. Green Bay, who's going to be tough at Green Bay. Indy, who's going to be tough at Indy. Houston, that's going to be tough at Houston. You get the Jets in New York. Congratulations. You can probably win that one. I just don't think Antonio Brown, if they had, what the Bears did last year, if it was like a Khalil Mack type player, I might look at it and go, you know what? They could win maybe 3 more games. With Antonio Brown, I don't necessarily know if it changes the meter that much. They might still be a 4, maybe 5-win team, maybe a 3-2 or 1-win team because of the toughness, especially of their road games.
No, I don't think they'll be worse than they were last year. It's hard to be worse than they were last year. They should be better.
Titans, Lions, Bengals, Jets. So even as last year. At least.
I think they'll at least steal a win or two because if they get into offensive matches, assuming Antonio Brown doesn't fall apart immediately because he hates everybody in the locker room, they should be able to win 5 or 6 games.
The other question is Derek Carr the guy? I know you brought up Kyler Murray, but the true question is is Derek Carr even the guy? Because, like, there has been, we've been talking about all offseason, is John Gruden married to Derek Carr, or is he just dating Derek Carr?
Well, I think that if I was going to take a guess, Derek Carr will be here all year, for sure.
It's just after this year.
After this year is when the questions really come to mind for me. And I could see them not taking a quarterback this year, but next year, after another not great year, saying, hey, there's some good quarterbacks here. Maybe we'll take one of these guys, especially if, like you're saying, they're still going to be...
He has 3 years left after this one.
Yeah, they'll be able to trade Derek Carr without a problem. If you are thinking that they're going to be a worse team than they were last year, or at least as the same, a 4-win team, they'll probably be able to draft a quarterback without a problem.
What about the Steelers? Where do the Steelers go from here? Because the thing I saw on Twitter... used to be the killer bees last year. Now 2 of the bees are gone. Antonio Brown is in Oakland. Le'Veon Bell, at this point, he hasn't signed anywhere, so we don't know where he's going. Where do the Steelers go from here, and what will they even look like next year?
And the AFC North is really kind of a mystery right now, and we're going to talk about it later. But they're a team that's kind of declining, and it just kind of continues. I mean, Baltimore stole the division. Cincinnati was looking really good for a while, and then things fell apart for them, injuries especially. Cleveland looks like it's on the up and up, and they've been making a lot of moves. And I think that shows you something. Players are leaving a team like Pittsburgh. They are trying to join a team like Cleveland. That just shows that there's a shift in this division right now. And for me with the Steelers, there's not that much time left for Big Ben. He doesn't quite look the same. He's not bad, but he doesn't quite look the same as he was before. But they still have talented players. They still have a really talented running back. They still have very talented, not Antonio Brown level, but still very talented wide receivers out there.
Juju's now your main guy.
Yeah.
Which he was getting, like, Antonio Brown was getting upset that he was getting more and more targets anyways, because Antonio was like, hey, I should be the one getting all the targets.
So I think the Steelers are going to be fine. It's not like they're suddenly a 5-win team. But I just don't know if they necessarily are playoff caliber team. They're a wild card hunt team, but it's just that question of, are they really going to be that much better? I mean, they might be in that same type of situation of an 8-8, 9-7 type of team.
See, the thing I think about with the Steelers is, because I agree with you, I don't think just because you lost Antonio Brown doesn't mean that, oh, damn, we just got breaking news here that we're going to talk about. That Browns topic later, Odell Beckham's a Brown. That's what we're going to talk about later. That happened live on the podcast.
Odell Beckham or Odell Beckham Jr.?
Odell Beckham Jr. is a Brown.
Because, I mean, if they got his dad, I don't know if that's anything that's special.
So I just, basically, so you guys are getting this, well, live-ish. I just opened up the draft order for the needs to pull up the Steelers.
Reload my Cleveland Browns tab.
Yeah, so that last Browns topic, it's probably going to get flipped around. They'll probably be second. Nick Foles will now probably be third. That Browns topic now becomes Odell Beckham trade. Are the Browns the now favorite in the North? That just happened. Wow. But the Steelers, to answer what I was saying about them.
But let's be real, though. The big deal is they re-signed Brashard Perriman.
Yes.
That is the biggest, piece of news.
Former Raven Brashard Perriman.
Yeah, they got
throw
him.
It up there,
They
baby.
got it. You guys didn't think they could re-sign him. They re-signed him.
But here's the thing I was going to say about the Steelers before that happened is basically the thing that I think changes in my mind is their draft strategy of, like, in the last mock draft that we did, I had them go with a wide receiver because I was kind of anticipating them trading Antonio Brown. I wonder if at 20, if a Marquise Brown is there, if they value A.J. Brown high enough or N'Keal Harry high enough, is this now a situation where the Steelers go, hey, we got Juju Smith, we have James Washington, who did improve last year, but I don't know if he's ready to be the number 2 guy. Do they go ahead and take a wide receiver, even if he's going to be number 2, if he's going to be number 3? Do they sign a free agent? Is that where they go with that, now finding that number 2 for the Steelers? That, to me, becomes a bigger need for them. And at 20, it may switch into let's target a wide receiver here, depending on how many go before us.
Here's what I would love to see happen, and I'm a little off topic here. Two things. Well, I think I would love to see happen, and then a thing that it took a moment, but it came into my head of something has happened here. The thing I really want to see happen is Odell Beckham now
breaking news
goes to Cleveland, and I just want him to immediately get his contract restructured to make him being paid more than Antonio Brown. Antonio, you were paid the most. Your structure was redone so you could be paid the most for a day. That has ended. The other part is, the reality is, Eli's done now.
You think so?
What's he got?
Here,
Sterling Shepard, that's about it.
Pretty much. I mean,
he's got Saquon Barkley, obviously.
Dwayne Haskins, welcome to New York, right?
Yeah, I mean, isn't that a sure thing that they're drafting a quarterback now?
I mean, pretty much.
Because what else are you going to do?
They also traded Olivier Vernon to isn't that how they got Olivier Vernon? They traded him from the Giants to
He's gone.
The Browns?
Yeah, and this basically is the sure thing. Hey, that whole Raiders thing looks like it maybe worked out for them. Can we do that, please? Anybody want our super talented players?
Now, here's the thing, and we're going to talk about this in the Browns segment, of course.
Which this is slowly becoming the Browns
basically, segment. I'm sorry, Steelers fans. They're probably like,
Steelers fans, I mean,
guys.
it's basically just that things are not looking great for your team.
I mean, the thing is...
But you're not terrible.
I'm going to say...
You're wild card
This
level.
is the Steelers. I'm going to save the Browns for when we talk about them next. But I mean, with the Steelers, are you dead in the water? No. But now comes some big questions. Number one, you're going to have to revamp that wide receiver core. James, like, the Le'Veon Bell thing... doesn't matter to me because James Conner played well. I know he got injured late in the year, but he played well this year to where you shouldn't question him being your starting back. That defense is what it is, and of course you're maybe hoping to get some draft picks maybe to bolster it up. But the big thing now comes, when does Ben leave? And when do you get on the replacing Ben bandwagon? Not saying that you should like bench him this year, but is Mason Rudolph the guy, or should you be targeting someone else like a Drew? If Drew Lock is there at 20, should the Steelers think about taking him?
At 20, no. And the thing for me with the Steelers really is just I think that we just saw it with almost the sure thing for the New York Giants of saying the era has ended. It's been fun, Eli. We're maybe going to give you a transition year where you're going to tutor the young guy, and he's probably going to take your job midway through the year. And then you can go ahead and make some Papa John's commercials with your brother. This Pittsburgh Steelers basically need to do the same thing.
He's all about nationwide now.
Yeah, it's on your side.
Play that jingle, Brad Paisley.
Not for me. And the Pittsburgh Steelers are basically...
Hashtag not sponsored.
They're not quite there. They're definitely not at the New York Giants level, but they're kind of teetering on the edge where they're like, maybe we do the same thing. I think that the Steelers are really going to kind of weigh out, how does this season start to go? If things aren't going well with this season, you might quickly see this team saying, let's figure out the future. I would not be surprised if they do draft another quarterback in this draft, though.
Last thing to end this segment. Where do you think the Raiders end at the end of this year? Just whether it's division, wild card, just miss playoffs, out of the playoffs completely for both the Raiders and the Steelers?
Both are not in the playoffs. Is my bet.
Wow. You think the Steelers aren't in the playoffs either?
Yeah, I think they're a wild card team that potentially just misses. I mean,
so they're in the just miss category.
Yeah, they're not going to be a terrible team, but this is a team that's going to be like an 8-8. I think they just miss. Raiders, to me, their high is like 6 wins. The hard thing for them is they're competing with the Chiefs. And they're competing with the Chargers.
And that road schedule. I read it. Minnesota, Green Bay, Indy, Houston, New York. It's like the Jets. That's your win.
You just once again have to think about all the teams that are going to be competing here. Patriots, they got it locked up. Browns are now a big competitor. You got the Colts and the Texans in the South. You've got the Chiefs and the Chargers in the West. Your playoffs are filled. You know, and those are all the teams that were kind of are the favorites.
Don't forget
right
Baltimore.
Now. I'm going to forget Baltimore because I don't really believe in Baltimore, but
Yeah,
that's a different story.
I'm on the wagon of, as at the moment, I think the Raiders are a 4-win, 5-win team. 1 win is all I will give you. I know you got Antonio Brown, but I don't think he moves the needle that much.
One single win, 1-15.
For the Steelers, I think at the moment I still feel like they could be a wild card team, but I wouldn't be surprised if they just missed the playoffs because of a lot of teams around them getting a lot better. But this is where you guys come in. Let us know what you think down below in that comment section. What do you think of the AB trade? What does it mean for the Raiders? What does it mean for the Steelers? And if you're a Raider fan or a Steeler fan, I really want to know what you guys think down below as well. But Mark, let's get into our next topic. And if you're on YouTube, you're thinking, wait, but guys, this is the first time we're seeing you this week. How could we just be getting into the second topic? And that's because while we were recording the podcast, kind of some breaking news. The Browns have acquired Odell Beckham Jr. But before
you guys already know this. It's happened already in your world.
Before I get into this, though, make sure to rate and review the Onside Kick on Apple Podcasts. It would really mean the world to us. And just like this trade for the Browns, they're really happy. That 5 stars would really make us better and get us into more ears. Please go ahead and do that on Apple Podcasts. Well, let's talk about this because we were, just to let you guys know who are on YouTube, audio listeners, you've already heard this. We said this in the last segment, but we were going to talk about the Browns. It was going to be our last segment. Are the Browns the new favorite in the North because of the AB trade? Plus, I mean, Sheldon Richardson from the Vikings.
They did quite a bit.
Olivier Vernon from the Giants. But now they add Odell Beckham Jr. And I am going to ask you first, before we talk about the real question of are the Browns the new favorite still?
Yeah.
What are your, because these are like immediate thoughts for us because it's just happening tonight.
Yeah.
What are your first thoughts of Odell Beckham now basically Cleveland Brown?
The first thing I'm going to say is something I already said in the podcast. If you're an audio listener, you already heard this. And it wasn't the first thing that came to my mind, but I'm going to say it first. Is Eli is done. His career's over. So
we're going to get the Giants out of the way first.
Yeah, the Giants,
Okay.
I want to get that taken care of.
All right.
He's gone. And I know just via text that Sean Anderson does not like this trade. I like it for both teams. Both teams are winners in my standpoint.
I don't see why. Did he say why he didn't like it as I pull up
Because
my phone
he
to
just
see
thinks
it?
that if they draft the right quarterback, they can turn the team around fast.
Oh, so he just doesn't want the Giants to be good. He's being a hater for New York because he's a Patriot fan.
No, he's saying they should be good. They shouldn't have done this trade because they can still be good.
Oh, so he's saying take Haskins at 6, you could be good with OBJ.
Exactly,
Okay.
because OBJ is still young. He's still on a prime type of contract, whatever. But for me, they're not competing anytime soon. So this is the right thing to do. If you're not going to be there, just go ahead and trade it. I mean, I know we were like, what is John Gruden doing with the Raiders at first? But it makes sense. It makes sense. The guy's only 26 years old. He is worth a lot. Get that first-round pick and a third-round pick and a player and Jabril Peppers.
The Browns got him locked up until 2024.
Oh. They do. Oh. So the whole thing for the Giants, just to get them out of the way really fast, is they're in a rebuild. They made a good rebuild decision. All right, they're gone. Eli, it's been fun.
I just want to say with the Giants too, because most of this is going to be a Browns topic, is the other thing I like. You get the 17th overall pick. You get the 96th pick, which is a late third rounder.
Yeah.
You get Jabril Peppers. I like it on their side.
Yeah.
Like you got what almost the Steelers should have got for Antonio Brown.
And isn't that kind of the slap in the face, too, of like Antonio Brown?
Both are divas. Both are
first
divas.
and a third, and a player for Odell.
Well, the thing is, Odell made up with the
kicking net?
The kicking net. So, see, that was the big thing. Like, he's a guy that can see his fault and kind of see, hey, I'm a guy that it was my fault. I'm going to apologize.
I don't buy it.
That's why the Browns wanted him.
I don't buy that he's a guy who can see his faults and apologize. But anyways, for the Cleveland Browns, I'm going to put this out there because it is Cleveland, and then we'll get a little bit more serious. I am now convinced that it's all going to fall apart on you.
You're being very skeptic with this?
Because here's the thing. You guys have made too many good and smart moves for me to believe that the gods of Cleveland will allow this to succeed.
Well, you know, it's even like more like the most humorous part about this is around this time last year, March 10th, Dave and I were doing a segment for the Onside Kick prior to free agency because the Browns, that was when they had acquired Demarius Randall, they had acquired Jarvis Landry and Tyrod Taylor. So almost a year to the day that they acquired Jarvis Landry, they acquire OBJ. And now they got both those guys on the team, which could be good, could be bad.
Those are two big personalities.
Volatile personalities.
But I'm making a joke here, obviously, Cleveland fans who already typed up the angry comments and probably sent them. It's just that
March 9th,
too many smart moves for me to believe that this is going to go well for you. But in a joking way. But anyways, to be serious, they're doing everything they need. Right now, Cleveland sees this is a weak division. We don't believe in the quarterback in Baltimore. As soon as people exposed him as not being able to throw, it was a problem. Pittsburgh is on a decline. Cincinnati Bengals are just kind of dwelling down at the bottom for whatever reason.
Brand new coach.
We are here. We are ready to go.
A Sean McVay disciple or a Sean McVay guy who might know Sean McVay a little bit but isn't actually a disciple.
Maybe
of
bumped into him one time.
Had lunch with him on the 4th of December.
Sean McVay is.
Has his number in his phone. That's the most important.
Don't even need it. Just need to have heard the name Sean McVay before.
You know who Sean McVay is? Yeah, you're hired.
Yeah. Sean McVay. If you just know McVay, you don't even need to know his first name. Have you heard McVay?
Or how old he is.
Yeah.
We're done with this joke. Go on.
Anyways, Cleveland here, they're doing everything they need to do. They get defensive pieces, quite a bit of them. I mean, that front seven, really front four, but also front seven for Cleveland is terrifying.
Stacked.
It is deadly. This offense has everything. I am still going to say I am worried about Jarvis Landry and Odell Beckham Jr. I am actually worried about those two. I don't know that they can get along in a locker room with who? Baker Mayfield, another guy with a big personality.
You know what? I'm going to say Baker is a big personality, but I've been wrong about him. Like, through the draft, I was wrong about him when I questioned his character and stuff. For the Browns, he was the reason why they went 7-8-1. Like, he was the reason, and he is going to be growing into the leader of that team.
I do think Greg Williams deserves some credit, even though they got rid of him.
True.
Despite him also being a big reason for why that team fell apart in the beginning, because he was intentionally trying to destroy it.
Yeah, let's turn everyone against Hugh.
Which, to be fair, everyone should have been against Hugh to begin with.
Not hard to do.
But anyways, I just think that you've got these three type of personalities here that are the classic, if they win, it's going to be great. If they lose, it's going to be terrible.
I think they're a playoff team.
I do too. I think that this is the division winner if I had to pick somebody right now. But these free agency signings did just happen. We haven't gotten the draft yet, and this is a classic time to overreact. So that's why I'll put on paper, this team should win their division. But just the thing that I remember with this is the Legion of Boom. When they won, life was great. They were cocky. We loved it. It was fun. As soon as they started losing, everybody's pointing fingers. People are getting mad. They want to get out as soon as possible. Cleveland is running that risk. But here's the thing. It fell apart in Seattle. It worked really well in Los Angeles.
Yeah,
the Rams were able to manage it because they won.
The thing I look at is you look at this team post Tyrod Taylor, I'll even say, where when Baker came in, the New York Jet game week 3 on.
Got a little attitude.
They were basically what you take one loss and one tie. They were 7-7-0. They were 7-7 with Baker Mayfield. I look at some of those games with Baker Mayfield and the additions that they made, Sheldon Richardson, Olivier Vernon, now OBJ. That Pittsburgh tie is a win. That Saint loss is a win. Should have probably been a win anyways if their kicker would have made some kicks in that game. But those are two games they can now win with more defensive help and an OBJ out there because the biggest
defenses have time to catch up to them now.
But this is the thing.
Baker.
This is the thing that is to me so important of getting OBJ. You're gonna double cover both Jarvis and OBJ?
Yeah.
You can only double cover one. Who do you double coverage? Who's being left in single coverage? Pick your poison.
I mean, offensively,
the other one
it's
going to
remind me of Alshon Jeffrey, Brandon Marshall.
Or the great... Nah, I'm not going to say that.
Yeah, let's not go that far.
The greatest show on turf.
Yeah, I'm putting it to a realistic level of two 1,000-yard receivers.
People
in
might
Chicago.
think I'm a Brown fan because I'm excited. And if you're a Brown fan right now...
You kind of are a bit of a Brown fan, though.
Be excited.
Yeah.
A little bit.
You've been on the Browns for a while. You've been riding them for a while.
Haven't I been ragging on them a lot?
No,
though?
you've been riding them.
Really?
Like, you've been all about it.
Okay, I'll take it.
Yeah, you've been about them. I mean, I always say that Cleveland, because I used to play them in Madden because they were terrible.
Why not?
That I do have a very soft spot for Cleveland. I want them to win because they were bad, and I played them in Madden because it was fun.
I did too at Big Game Barnage.
Yeah, you just bring them up to a championship.
He was my
level.
go-to guy.
My longest franchise I ever played was with the Cleveland Browns. But anyways, yeah, on paper, they're doing everything they need. The thing that we need to remember, though, is new coaching staff, of course. So we got to see how that works.
How is Freddie Kitchens going to do as a head coach?
Yeah, and there's a lot of things for him to manage. They cannot afford to have a guy who is not willing to be the boss in the room. He needs to be the authority figure.
Yeah.
Because these guys need that kind of a little bit more hard-nosed coach to keep them in line. They can't have a Hugh Jackson. They can't have that. Once again, I think that Greg Williams would have been able to probably handle this kind of well, but he didn't get his opportunity.
So, looking at, I love to do this so early in the year. These are the Browns' opponents road and away. So the road opponents, of course, the division. Bingo, bingo, bingo. You got 3 of them off the start. The other 3 road teams at New England, at the Jets, at the Niners, at the Cardinals. 1 loss out of those. I see one. I don't see them losing to the Cardinals. 49ers, we'll see how Jimmy G comes back.
I was going to say, have you gotten off the bandwagon of the 49ers?
We'll see what happens when Jimmy G comes back.
You were crowning him as the Messiah.
But the Jets, that's an easy win. Like, their road schedule...
They made a lot of moves, too, though.
The Patriots are the team that'll probably beat them. And then their home schedule, besides the division, the Bills and the Dolphins wins. The tough ones come in the Rams and maybe the Seahawks, although you're playing the Seahawks at home, not in Seattle. And then the Tennessee Titans.
Does Baker get to play all of his opposing draft year quarterbacks?
I think so.
Because he's going to play, obviously, Lamar. He's going to play Josh Allen. He doesn't play Josh Rosen. That's what it is.
No, the Cardinals.
Oh, he does play them, too, because he plays Sam Darnold.
So Cardinals with Darnold,
with Rosen.
Cardinals with Rosen, Jets with Darnold. He's got the Bills with Allen. And
Lamar.
And Lamar, twice with Lamar. So the only team I missed was Denver on the road. That's the only road game I missed. But winnable schedule. Like, depending on where these match up, very winnable schedule for the Cleveland Browns this year, especially with the moves they made.
Well, they were a 7-8-1 team last year.
Yeah.
They should at least be able to be 9-7.
And now they've added 2, like, just with the 2 pieces on defense, I was ready to crown their asses tonight. I was ready to say they are going to be AFC North division champs based on the Steelers coming down. The Ravens, I think, will give them a fight, and I think it'll be between the Ravens and the Browns for the division. But now with OBJ, for me, the biggest question is, who do you double team, and how defensively do you attack OBJ and Jarvis Landry now? Like, they have 2 number 1 quality receivers as their top 2.
Got to have a good pass rush. Get to
Baker. But he can even use his feet to extend the play.
He can. The thing here I look at with the Cleveland Browns, and this part's not even really about them, is the rest of their division has all kind of taken a step back. I'm even going to include Baltimore on there, even though their step back is a little smaller. And it's not just because of Lamar Jackson.
They're losing
because
Terrell Suggs.
They're losing Terrell Suggs. They're losing quite a bit of defensive talent this year. That's going to hurt them. That's going to hurt them quite a bit. They're going to take that step back. And really, everyone just opening the doors for Cleveland and saying, this is your time. Your time to shine is here.
I am now extremely excited.
Yeah, 16-0, Cleveland Browns.
Let's not go that far. I'm excited to see what this season now holds for Cleveland. Like, and what I was going to say earlier, and you kind of cut me off and said that I was kind of a Browns fan. If I was a real Browns fan, and if you are a Browns fan watching this, be excited.
Yeah.
Like, your team, like, even last year, I was like, hey, be excited. You got Baker Mayfield. You got Tyrod Taylor. You made those moves. Now you're getting OBJ,
Be excited. You got Tyrod Taylor.
Well, hey, Tyrod at the time.
It's just fun to look back and hear that.
I mean, Tyrod Taylor was probably the grown-up on Hard Knocks last year. That's what he was.
I don't know.
He was more the head coach.
What's that third quarterback's name? He was a pretty big grown-up, too.
It was like Rudock or something. No, not Rudock.
Rudock. I don't know. But he was quite the grown-up, too. He bought snacks, and he bought good snacks. Not at first, but eventually he got the good snacks. Was it Broback, right? Broback, I think.
Brogan Roback.
Yeah, no,
and
there's
Devon
a good
Cajuste. Don't forget Cajuste.
Cajuste.
He got cut, though.
Yeah, he sure did.
He did get cut.
He was the annual sacrifice by HBO.
But here's the thing, the one question that I think we have to ask about OBJ that we railed on Antonio Brown for is, are you upset? Or are you nervous about the off the fields that come with
100%.
OBJ? Because now, not just this, think about this. OBJ off the field. Jarvis Landry, hard head. Antonio Callaway, everything, all the baggage that he had coming in.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Plus the off the field stuff that he had in preseason where Hugh Jackson was like, fuck it, every snap you're playing.
Yeah. Well, I already said I'm worried about this trio. My trio was different because it included Baker Mayfield. And it's just that I fully expect this to be if they win games, these three click. Because none of them are guys who have real issues off the field.
Yeah.
Baker grew up since college. No one had real issues off the field.
But
their issues are all, if things start going badly, we will all infight.
If Baker tries to stand up to either of them, they won't take him seriously. Do you think so?
I do. Yeah. Maybe it depends on if they're winning or not.
Maybe Odell less than Jarvis, because Jarvis at least knows Baker at least a year. They've been on the same team.
To me, it still falls on if they win. If they win, they're going to be happy.
Let's say they're losing. It's the same thing, like an 8-8 year. If Baker tries to, I'm going to say, stand up to Odell and Jarvis, do they take him seriously as a leader being a second-year pro?
8-8, maybe. But I'm leaning towards no.
Okay.
If they, just like I said, if they lose games, I don't think these guys are happy with each other. Because these are all people who, it's not really Baker's going to be a point fingers guy, but the two wide receivers are going to point fingers. And Baker's going to be the guy who, he's not going to put up with it, but I don't know that they are going to, like you're saying, I don't know that they're going to respect him. So if he talks back.
Take him serious kind of
Yeah, if he talks back, they're going to be like, get out of here. Who are you? What have you proven? You know, not that the other two really have proven all that much when it comes to win statistics, just purely off of things like Super Bowls and stuff like that. But.
And I mean, I know you mentioned this before, but it's a big question. I'm going to throw it again. Freddie Kitchens. He's been in the NFL as a coach since 1999.
Yeah.
But he's never been a head coach. Does that even matter? Like, does that even matter?
That doesn't matter if he can come in, win the team, and they win games.
Because, I mean, he was here last year. It was their offense. Like, he was their assistant. I'm sorry. Their assistant head coach.
To the regional manager.
And running backs coach in 2018. Then he was promoted to OC when Hugh got fired. Now he's the head coach.
To me, it doesn't matter that he hasn't been a head coach. It all just matters if he can come in, win this team, and win games.
Jeez, could you imagine if they were on Hard Knocks this year? Can HBO just give them Hard Knocks again?
I don't know. There are specific rules about what makes a team not able to get Hard Knocks.
Do we know who's going to be Hard Knocks this year?
I doubt it. It's kind of early. Well, you can't, because a team that drafts a rookie quarterback, I think can get out of Hard Knocks. Or no, it's a new head coach. If you have a new head coach, you're automatically exempt from Hard Knocks.
Yeah, they don't have one down yet.
There's a few things that can for sure get you out of Hard Knocks. One of them is, I'm pretty sure, is having a new head coach.
Okay. Yeah, they don't even. I was looking at the wiki page to see if they even had who was going to be there. But any final thoughts?
You know it's
going
to be whoever probably drafts Kyler Murray.
It's the Bears. The Bears are
who draft
next.
Kyler Murray.
Yeah.
He's going to be our new wide receiver. It's going to be great.
The Cardinals would be an interesting team. If Kyler Murray's there, Cliff Kingsbury.
But then Cliff Kingsbury, they can't be on Hard Knocks.
Okay.
New head coach.
So the Cardinals can't.
Yeah, so they can't draft Kyler Murray. We need him to go whoever's going to be on Hard Knocks.
He's got to go to the Jets. Adam Gase, New York Jets.
New head coach.
Damn it.
Yep.
All these new head coaches.
They need to go to the Raiders. He needs to get drafted by the Raiders.
John Gruden was a new head coach last year.
That works. But no, we got to save them for next year when they're in Vegas. See, these are the hard questions that the executive producers got to think about.
Or do you just give it to him this year because of AB?
That would work too.
Of getting AB.
But I don't know, that new Vegas thing, because they did it with the Rams. Mm-hmm. You know who would work out well? Kansas City.
For this year?
Yeah, for this year, Kansas City Chiefs.
Jacksonville. Nick Foles coming to town.
That could be interesting.
Or are they not volatile enough?
Yeah, they're not very interesting.
Are they not exciting enough?
That's going to be like that year that they had the Buccaneers and everyone was like, all right. I think the Chiefs would be interesting.
You think so?
You get to listen to Kermit talk for a little bit.
I guess.
It'll be fun.
It'd be too much of a distraction, though, for the Chiefs.
It probably
they're
would
all about
be.
winning.
But,
they're all about winning games.
But it's not always the team's choice. Sometimes they get told they're doing it.
True, by the NFL. Any final thoughts on the Browns? With the OBJ, thoughts about next year?
There are things to realistically be nervous about, but on paper, throw the parade already. You know, things are looking great. Just throw the parade.
Making the playoffs parade or the Super Bowl
Sure,
parade?
whichever one is next. It probably is making the playoffs
because
next.
they already had the 0-16 parade.
But no, I mean, honestly, in the AFC, if you are purely looking at paper, and there are question marks and there are concerns, if you're going to purely look at paper, this is probably the third favorite to win the Super Bowl in the AFC. If you're purely going to look at paper.
Especially with OBJ. Like, that was the one thing that crossed my mind is now after this trade, I am interested to see where Vegas puts their Super Bowl odds at.
The big question mark, of course, is probably going to be the young quarterback, but they've got a good enough defense to where it doesn't matter. Chicago was being looked at as like the third favorite to win or to get to the Super Bowl in the NFC once the playoffs happened, and Mitch Trubisky was a very young quarterback, still inexperienced, but it's that defense that takes you there. So, yeah, things are looking great for Cleveland. We'll see how the football gods decide to ruin Cleveland's parade.
Yeah, you know, I'm honestly excited after this. Like, I was excited coming into this segment because the Browns making big things. Although I'm not happy that Sheldon Richardson left my team. I'm more happy that Anthony Barr decided to stay on my team.
You guys weren't using Sheldon Richardson.
True. Anthony Barr is the bigger guy to keep. But yeah, no, the Browns, I'm excited to see how this season go for them. And I'm excited to see how the race between, in my mind, the Browns and the Ravens goes for the top of the NFC North, because to me it's going to be one of them. I think Steelers taking a step back. Good old Cersei's been keeping the Iron Throne warm for a while. Now it's time for either Daenerys in Cleveland or Jon
for
Snow
Game of Thrones.
in. Really, do you think Baker would he be more of a Jon Snow or a Daenerys? I would say a Daenerys.
Yeah, he'd be. He's too fiery to be.
Lamar would be a Jon Snow.
I guess I can kind of.
If I have to go between the two,
if those are the only two choices I have, then
yeah, because I mean, Cersei is on the Iron Throne. That's Big Ben, and the Steelers, and then the Browns with Baker would be Daenerys, and the Ravens with Jon Snow would be. And
then Andy Dalton can be, Tyrion, I guess.
No, he can be the not Lovejoys, the Greyjoys. No, they're dead, aren't they? The Greyjoys.
No, there's a couple Greyjoys left.
I can't remember if the Greyjoys. I always mix them up if that's the one that Arya killed.
No, those
Spoilers
are the Freys.
For like deep Game of Thrones references, by the way.
No, not even deep references. These are full on major plot point specials.
I'm assuming people have watched it though.
I'm assuming that we probably have ruined someone's day by now.
But this is where you come in. Let us know what you think down below about OBJ, about Olivier Vernon, about Sheldon Richardson going to the Cleveland Browns, and are they the favorite in the AFC North? Now, let us know what you guys are thinking down below in that comment section. But Mark, let's close out the podcast taking a look at another team making some free agency moves, and we've got the Jacksonville Jaguars giving, and correct me if I'm wrong, a max, pretty much the max deal that they could almost give to Nick Foles. I know it was the biggest contract that the Jaguars have ever given a quarterback, I believe, in their franchise's history. Nick Foles making a butt ton of money. I think it's like $88 million and like 50 some guaranteed over 4 years. It is exactly that. I want to ask you this, just plain and simple. With 4 years to Nick Foles, $88 million, 50 guaranteed, how will the Nick Foles era play out for the Jaguars?
I honestly have no clue.
Your guess is as good as mine.
Yeah, this is such a mystery. The guy is 30 years old. He signed until he's 34. In this case, he got 4 years. He's a guy who shined in Philadelphia. Went to Jeff Fisher's Rams, which, to be fair, that is a place where anyone would have gone to fail.
It's where quarterbacks go to die.
And then he nearly... I think he was at the Chiefs for a little bit. He was nearly out of the NFL. He was ready to accept that it was over.
Like he was going to go and bag
he's
groceries.
Like, you know what? I am as good as Peyton Manning, some would say. But I'm all right.
Some would say better
done.
than Peyton Manning.
No, as good. They've got the same record.
Okay.
As good for their, throwing touchdowns in one game. Anyways, and now he's back to Philadelphia, Super Bowl MVP, finally going over to Jacksonville. So, signs would say, if you want to look at history, that he can only really succeed in Philadelphia, and he's bound to fail. Now, that's taking it a little far, but I just don't know. It's a question mark. I need to see him outside of a very friendly quarterback system, because this Jacksonville offense is not going to be, it's not as bad as Jeff Fisher, but it's not going to be as friendly as either one of these Philadelphia offenses that he was a part of. So there's some question mark there. There is question mark to it of if it's going to work and how it's going to work out. They desperately need to get him some wide receivers, and they probably need to get him some support on the line as well. Defense is fine. You don't need to touch the defense. That's great. But get him some support, because they've got a running back who, really was not able to be himself last year, obviously, and injuries were an issue too. But if you can get him healthy, if you can keep them both healthy, and you can give him somebody to throw the ball to, you tried to throw it in my face when I said I didn't trust their wide receivers. After week 1, they did all right, and then they never came back again. They can't repeat that. They can't have inconsistency. They need somebody that he can rely on, because Nick Foles, he's got the tools that you need, but he needs the extra help as well, to where I sit there and I'm like, man, it's a huge deal, and I understand the market, and I understand they probably had to, although I really don't know who they were bidding against.
The Redskins.
Don't know if I fully believe it. I think the Jaguars are pretty much on there.
But
I think they overpaid him, is basically what I'm trying to say.
And that's the thing I was kind of thinking as well, where I'm thinking the only team that I could see bidding against Jacksonville for Nick Foles, the Washington Redskins. And I know there are some people out there that have said, like, oh, well, the Redskins should have went out and paid for Nick Foles to at least get him, because they need a quarterback.
But they're probably sitting there saying, we don't think he's worth that much money.
See, and that's the question for me. Like, the Jacksonville Jaguars, I can't help but think the Jacksonville Jaguars are doing Jaguar things, where look at what they did for Blake Bortles. Oh, you got us to the AFC Championship? Here, take some money. Take some money. Here's your extension.
If you got problems, throw money at it.
How did that turn out? And I feel like with this one, did they need a quarterback? Could they have marched in with Blake Bortles this year as their quarterback? Absolutely not. They were forced into this decision, in my mind.
And it's not a bad decision.
But I think I would have been happier as a Jaguar fan if they were like the Broncos and traded for a Joe Flacco. Because I would feel like, okay, Joe Flacco is better than what we have, but we're not marrying Joe Flacco.
I disagree on that. You couldn't have gotten Joe Flacco.
Whereas
that would have not been a big improvement.
Whereas this, you're marrying Nick Foles for better or worse.
Yeah.
And the thing is, I'm coming into this thinking one thing. It's going to be for worse. The reason why, unless he is in Philadelphia green, he hasn't played well. Like, he hasn't had winning records outside of Philadelphia.
But still, to put it out there, that was with Jeff Fisher. Mm-hmm. Which, like we said and agreed, anyone would fail with Jeff Fisher. He played one game for the Chiefs, and that was it. And they did win that game.
Even before he went with Jeff Fisher, like when he played in Philadelphia,
he played
well. Yeah, he played well in Philadelphia.
That's my point. He played well in Philly. He went to a place where we agree he was going to fail.
Yeah, and
there was no succeeding in Jeff Fisher's offense. Ask Sam Bradford.
I wonder how he's going to do in Jacksonville because it's not the Philly system. B, think about this: the wide receivers that Philly had, way different,
much better
than Jacksonville has.
The whole group, much better.
Like, my question becomes: now that you have Nick Foles, all right, Jacksonville, what are you going to do with that top 10 pick? Are you going to choose to protect Nick Foles or get him a DJ Metcalf?
Get him. You got to protect him.
Get him a wide receiver or protect him. If it's not one of those two moves.
That offensive line desperately needs a right tackle. And they need wide receivers as well. But I really think they need this offensive line just shirt up right now.
But it also
they could use tight ends too.
What's there also?
Yeah, they could use a tight end as well.
They could take T.J. Hawkinson. Some people have him in the top 10.
I wouldn't go that far, but I would love to see them trade up and grab Noah Fant. I would love to see them go back up in the first round and get a guy like that if you really believe he's that talented. It's a risky thing, but here's the thing where I'm not going to criticize Jacksonville, even though I think they overpaid.
Yeah.
They had to.
They did.
They didn't have another option. They couldn't put Blake Bortles out there.
They are a team.
They couldn't get a Joe Flacco.
They are a team 1 year removed from the AFC title game.
Yeah. They needed to take the risk. And you're saying that they're married to him, and it's like, yes, but they have to. This is that moment in poker where you're like, screw it. I'm all in. I have to do this right now. I've got a good enough hand here. Nick Foles is good enough. It's risky. I could still lose, but I have to go for it. And that's what it is. In Jacksonville, they've got so many pieces that they should be back. They should have been back to the AFC Championship again last year. They should have been right there, but the team just kind of fell apart. And a big part of that, just ask Jalen Ramsey that question there when he was saying, we all know what the problem is. I can't say what the problem is, but we all know what it is.
Like Bortles.
Exactly. You've got somebody else. You've got somebody better, somebody more talented. And hopefully age has been good to Nick Foles, and he's kind of put some of the past issues behind him, and he's ready to just move on and be a Super Bowl MVP again.
Yeah, and I mean, because it's not just because of the Blake Bortles thing that Jacksonville was kind of pinned into this.
There was injury issues. They didn't have any wide receivers.
It's not just that. There's a ton of reasons why. First off, like we said, you're a year removed from the AFC title game. Really, you were one penalty away from the Super Bowl to play Nick Foles and his Eagles. One penalty in that Patriot game away from beating the Patriots because they led going into halftime, had that bad penalty late in the game, kind of flipped momentum for the Patriots, and how they were able to take it. You have that. Then you have number 2, Blake Bortles. You could not trot him out this year after what he showed last year. Number 3 in my mind, look at the Colts. The Colts are a team, I know you and I, before the podcast, were kind of talking, and you were like, well, they're not really doing anything with that cap space that they got right now. Like, they've got so much of it, and they're not doing anything right away. And, of course, it's day one of free agency. We'll see how this kind of
Well, while we're recording this podcast,
out.
It's not even free agency yet.
Yeah, free agency doesn't officially start till Wednesday as we're recording this on Tuesday. But people are talking and kind of agreeing to deals already today. And you've got them, plus we've talked about Seattle numerous times. You mentioned them today on this podcast. The Jaguars have a similar issue with, as Seattle did, of this defense is, I'm going to say, in its prime. This defense is not going to be great forever. You need to cash in while you have all these chips lined up on the defensive side of the ball.
Yeah, this defense is going to be a big part of it. And the defense really, For Nick Foles, it could be the same, and I'm not comparing him to Trent Dilfer, but it could be a Trent Dilfer situation. That's all they need, and that's what they thought they would get with Blake Bortles.
They just need someone to not turn over
don't
the damn
mess it
ball.
up. And he did great with that when they went to the AFC Championship game. They just need him, and that's the best thing about Nick Foles. He doesn't really turn the ball over. He essentially has a 2-to-1 touchdown to interception ratio. You're pretty happy with what you get out of Nick Foles.
Yeah, the most he had was his last year in Philly, first year, or his only year in St. Louis. He had 10 and then 10.
Yeah. And to be fair, he didn't play 16 games in either one of them.
True.
But yeah, I mean, he's a guy who really doesn't turn over the ball that often. But that's going to be the other red flag, or not red flag, but concern for a lot of people is Nick Foles has never played a full season. It's never happened. He never played 16 games before.
The most he's played is 13 and started 10. His second year in the league.
And, you know, it's a little concerning just when you look at that because you need him to be out there all the time. But for Jaguar fans, I mean, this is the right move. You guys should be excited to have Nick Foles. He's a good quarterback. He is an above-average quarterback. There are teams that wish they had a quarterback like Nick Foles. Is it a risk? Sure, there's risk involved, but there are teams in free agency that did riskier things. Teams like the Jets, the Browns, the Packers, the Raiders, teams who went all in on a lot of different players, they have a bigger likelihood of failing than you guys just saying one thing, Nick Foles, that's all we need. Doesn't mean that you guys can't be the worst failure out of all of them, but you guys have a better chance of success than the people going out and getting everything.
And just because I'll say it again, I like playing this game. Here are the opponents for Jacksonville this year. Home opponents, division. Then you have the Jets, the Buccaneers, Chargers, Saints, Chiefs. 50-50.
Yeah.
Like you've got 3 that I see could be losses, 2 that could be win besides the division. Then on the road, you have the division. Then you have the Bengals, the Raiders, the Broncos, Falcons, and Panthers. An entirely mixed bag there.
Things are honestly looking pretty good when you look at that schedule. You should be able to get nine wins out of this.
Especially, like, I know they're on the road, but it's like the Bengals, the Raiders, the Broncos, the Falcons, the Panthers, all freaking question mark teams this year. What are we, like, Cam's injured. The Falcons, are they going to be what they were 2 years ago?
I would say
what
the
they were
Jaguars
last
are better
year?
teams than every single one of those teams.
And then the Broncos, what are they going to be with Joe Flacco? And then the Raiders and Bengals, I would say Jacksonville with Nick Foles is better than both of those teams.
In the paper world that we're living in right now, if everything's on paper, no games have been played yet, and we haven't even gotten to the draft, this is a 9-win team for me, easy.
Yeah, and I mean, the true question...
Maybe a 10-win team because you got a couple toss-up games in there.
The true question is, and this is another thing I want to throw out there too, is he is being reunited in a sense with John DeFilippo. Is that going to make... I kind of want to say, is that going to make any difference? Of course it's going to make a difference. It's going to be better than going somewhere where he's not. But, like, you and I have answered or asked the question before of,
and
like,
I think we got the
when
answer
those
too.
3 split up, who's the true mastermind in that? I mean, yeah, Frank Reich did good things with the Colts this year, but, like, Doug Peterson, again, had an injured Carson Wentz, took that team to the playoffs and won in the playoffs, although Cody Parkey helped them out a little bit.
Best player on the
probably,
Eagles.
Should have won that game if they kicked a field goal right. And then John DeFilippo got fired by the Minnesota Vikings. So, I mean...
So you're really getting the worst of the bunch.
It comes into a sense of, like, does it... Yeah, I'll Dwayne The Rock Johnson it. Does it even matter that he's being reunited with DeFilippo?
I think it helps a little bit, but yeah, I don't think he was the mastermind. I mean, it's nice. It's like when in Chicago...
It's a familiar language, maybe?
Yeah, it's like in Chicago when they went and grabbed... I forget his name even at this point, but the quarterback coach that Jay Cutler worked really well with.
Dow Loggins. Was it Dow Loggins?
No, it wasn't Dow Loggins. It was somebody else that was a part of that same type of time. But they went and got him because they're like, It might have been Dow Logan. It
think
probably
it is.
was. They're like, yeah, they've got the familiarity, they got the language, it'll lead to success. And it started to lead to success, and then it led to failure immediately after. Could be a very similar situation, but, every team we talked about, except for the Steelers, I feel good about what they all did.
Even the Giants?
Yeah, because
Even
the
though
Giants
they're
are a
kind of in
rebuild team.
Even though they're in the rebuild mode.
They did what they needed to do. They need to rebuild.
I'll ask you the same question I asked you about the Raiders and Steelers, and I'll get the same answer after you. Win the division, wild card, just miss the wild card, or completely out of the playoffs this year?
I'm going to put the Jacksonville Jaguars at probably wild card, but they've got a chance to win the division.
Yeah, I'm saying for sure wild card because I like the Colts better. I like that team better. I think they've got the better quarterback. They're a much better, well-coached team. Let's see what they do with a healthy Marlon Mack the entire year. But this Jacksonville team, there's no reason. And Nick Foles is also a quarterback, let's be honest. It might suit him a little better to come in as that wild card, come in as that underdog, because that's kind of and it was the whole team, but that's kind of what fueled the Philadelphia Eagles and why, when they won the Super Bowl, they had that dog mask because it's like, hey, we're the underdogs. No one expects us to win, so we're going to kind of embrace that a little bit.
They got a Super Bowl MVP, so you got to get production out of him like a Super Bowl MVP.
Well, this is where you guys come in. Let us know what you think down below in that comment section. How is the Nick Foles era going to play out in Jacksonville? I'm going to be honest, I'm a little skeptic with how it's going to go, basically because it's not the Philadelphia Eagles. But, I mean, Nick Foles, if he plays like he did the last 2 years, it shouldn't be a bad decision for Jacksonville. But let us know what you guys think down below. Also, make sure to hit us up on Patreon, patreon.com/mostvaluablepodcast. That's where you're going to help support the channel. $10 tier. You can join the podcast each and every month. You support us at that tier. Also, make sure to rate and review the podcast on Apple Podcasts. I almost said Apple iTunes, but Apple Podcasts. Make sure to please give us that 5-star rating. It really helps us out. And then follow us on Twitter. I'm at Ricky Widmer. Mark is at the Mark Weber with 2 E's. And Most Valuable Podcast is at Most Valuable Pod. Want to thank you guys for watching on YouTube. Want to thank you guys for listening on podcast services around the world. And as always, have a good day, everybody.